Welcome everybody to the very first Riverside Live. This is the first time we're trying it, and as far as we can tell, this is the first time anybody in the country is doing what we're doing here tonight. Now, most of you know the two people that are to my left. It's Dr. Rick Miller, the Superintendent of Riverside Unified School District, and next to him is Mayor Rusty Bailey, the Mayor of Riverside in California, for those that are watching outside of California, which I know are millions. Because this is reached by everybody. You shouldn't be laughing at that.
That's right.
I mean, we got to expect that.
I love that.
So, as most of the people in Riverside know, the superintendent and the mayor have these superintendent night outs and the mayor night outs. And what these are nights that they go to a location. For Dr. Miller, it's typically a school. For Mayor Bailey, it could be a church or a school as well. And they invite people to come in and ask questions. And so what we want to do is take that to the electronic level or the next level. We want you to be able to sit back and enjoy your dinner and watch from your own home and ask questions through many different ways. And you'll see at the bottom of your screen the way you can ask questions. You can ask questions by tweeting them, by logging onto our website, by going to a Facebook page, and you can also do it by email. We've already received a bunch of questions, and they've become really good questions. So don't be afraid to ask these two anything. We do have some very basic rules. We cannot, by law, talk about an individual staff member. So if you have trouble with a city worker or an RUSD worker, we cannot talk specifically about one person, and we cannot specifically talk about a student, but we can talk in more generalities. Also, some of the questions that we have received, they're more of a statement with a question attached. And in a separate room, we have a couple of reporters, we have our strategic communications person from RUSD, and they're trying to fact check this. If they're able to fact check the statement, then we will read the statement as well. If they can't make sure that the statement is correct, then we're just going to read the question. So go ahead and send the questions in. And is everybody ready to go?
We're ready.
All right, okay, they say they're ready. We'll see. All right, so the first one is for Dr. Miller. With Common Core coming soon, how soon are the schools going to begin implementing the new standards? Will we see changes in the way kids are instructed and tested as early as the 2013-2014 school year? If so, how will that happen? What will we expect to see? Which grade levels will be affected? Did you get all that?
Yeah, that's approximately 6 questions, and I can't remember the very first one, much less the very last one. So
okay.
if we can break it apart and kind of take it in pieces, that would be helpful to me at least.
Very good. I wanted to give you a general overall. All right. How soon are the schools going to begin implementing the new standards? And we're talking about Common Core. And you might want to explain what Common Core is first.
That's question number 7 then.
That's okay.
So Common Core is a national effort to arrive at standards that are similar as you go from state to state. And currently each state is its own school system by constitution, and as such they've set their standards, they've set their own testing process, they've set their own cut scores, so each state is different. This is an effort to say, why don't we all have the same standards, the same learning objectives, and then we'll have similar measurements. So that's really, when we talk about Common Core, that's what we're talking about. And the state of California has already, by legislation, adopted the Common Core as California standards.
Will we see changes in the way kids are instructed and tested as early as the 2013-2014 school year?
I would argue that there may not be as much difference as other people would understand, realizing again, every state is different, every school district is different, and because they're different, we're going to get different answers to those questions. I think actually in Riverside, we're quite a ways down the road with that, and so you're not going to see dramatic changes overall. Probably the biggest change I think ultimately is going to be the testing process. The testing would be done on a computer as an example, and it's what we call computer adapted. That is, if all 3 of us were in the same grade, we were given the same test, we don't have the same test. In other words, there's about a 5,000 question bank that's out there. my 100 questions would look different than either of you, because we would get some different answers that would be correct or incorrect, and then it would adjust based on the computer analysis of that. So that's one of the big changes. The other is there's going to be items like what we call constructed response. Constructed response is an area where you're posed with a question or a problem, and you have to basically construct or make or generate your response to that. And again, it's more of an application. As an example, I've looked at one where there was a problem relative to the use of utilities, and if you installed solar panels on your house, how would that affect your utilities? And basically, was there a good ROI, return on investment, relative to that, looking at how much your monthly bill was and so forth. So kind of a real life problem in constructing a particular response.
And trying to encourage critical thinking, right? That's the aspect.
Absolutely. Or maybe not critical thinking. I think I would struggle with that. That's the way it's defined. I'd say more application thinking. How do you apply your math skill and your thinking skills
real life scenarios
to a real life problem that you would, many parents deal with. Somebody says we need to improve the air conditioning system in my house. What's the return on investment that I would get out of that? So it's a real life kind of a solution.
Excellent. Okay, the next question is for Mayor Bailey. What role does the city play in regard to schools? How does the city support RUSD?
Well, wait a minute. That's only 2 questions.
I know, and I bet you he doesn't have to have them broken apart.
This is the first time we're doing this, right?
Yes, it is.
All right, good. Thank you for that. Well, we've been partnering with the school district, the city has, for over 100 years. And so it's nothing new to work with the other organization in the city that employs thousands of individuals, and a number of them live in the city of Riverside too. So we serve very similar clienteles, if not the same clientele, for most of the day. We have parks and schools that require maintenance, and so we share resources to some degree. We have a joint use project over at Ramona High School Stadium that we partnered on a couple of years ago, as well as a couple other schools and parks in the city. And so we have a number of different ways that we come together and we look at joint solutions to issues or concerns or problems that arise. We've created an education roundtable with the support of Dr. Miller to bring all the chief executive officers of the various educational institutions to the table to talk about strategies, long-term strategies about.
So the various institutions are like CBU,
Thank you for reminding me.
La
That's
Sierra,
right.
RCC. So it's really a broad-based group that we interact with.
Exactly. We get together on a monthly basis, a regular basis, to make sure that we're supporting each other and looking long-term, not just this school year or this budget cycle or this budget year, but what do we want the city and the students and the families, what do they expect from us, and what do we want to deliver to them in the long run? So,
well, tailing on that, and also after the 7:30 break, we're going to have a 3 or 4 minute break. We're going to show you some of the tech that's going on, and you'll be able to see some of the students in the background. So the next question is for Mayor Bailey. What volunteer opportunities are available for youth in the city of Riverside?
and that's another great connection there that we have is internship connections and possibilities and programs. Whether it's through the chamber and the business community or whether it's through our government TV. We've had students from Poly High School and other schools come down and look at some of the equipment that we have and hands-on experience over the summers and have taken that with them to college. And so ask that question again.
What volunteer opportunities are there for?
Yeah, so
youth, not just RUSD youth.
Right. Couple of ones. Specific opportunities and organizations that we have are the Explorers. Both the fire and the police department have Explorers that are kind of like Boy Scout troops that support that specific organization, that department in our city. We also have Victoria Avenue Forever, and they love to have students come out and help plant trees and plant roses along Victoria Avenue and keep Riverside clean and beautiful, which really is our, I would say, largest volunteer organization in the city, and they actively cross over into the high schools and middle schools, and had a competition recently. The Great American Cleanup, I think, was last weekend, and awarded each of those various levels of schools, I think, first, second, third place for having the best and cleanest campus in the schools, in the school district.
And actually, Mark Twain Elementary up in Orangecrest won the overall prize for
Hey.
elementary, middle school, and high school. So that was great. And again, students are very involved in that process.
It's a great partnership, for both organizations, and Alvord Unified School District is involved in that competition as well.
Now, several of the students that you honored Tuesday night or at your city council meeting for the wonderful work they did on the graffiti campaign are actually here working tonight.
I saw that.
So
I thought
they
I
were,
recognized
it
them.
was very interesting. So this next question actually came in every form. We got it by email, we got it on our Facebook, we got it, we didn't get it tweeted in, but I'm sure if we didn't ask it, we probably would have heard it. It was online. So I think they really want this question answered, and this is for Dr. Miller. We would like clarification from Dr. Miller regarding a comment he made at last Monday's board meeting. When he was asked about the closing of the adult school, Dr. Miller responded that it was a state decision. It seemed clear to many people who read the governor's revise that if districts want to retain their adult schools, they must provide funding for the next 2 years, until the 2-year plan developed by the CDE and the Chancellor's Office is completed. Adult schools that are not funded by their school districts will not be eligible for the new funding. Why then does Dr. Miller continue to say that it is not the control of local school districts?
So again, there's several different parts to that, and this is a fairly complicated issue, but let me give it my best shot. And I think I stand by actually my earlier comments. First of all, the May revise is a proposal, and it's a proposal from the governor. If you understand the process, back in January, he proposes a way to deal with the budget. Then he gets new information between basically January and May. In May, he gives us a new proposal, a refined proposal, which is what he's done. And actually, January he said one thing about adult school, he said something a little different in the May revise, but we're not done with the process, because at the same time, we have the legislature that's coming up with their own proposals. So the Assembly has a specific proposal relative to the budget and relative to adult school. We have a Senate version, they have a different proposal, and the reality is we got all kinds of floating proposals that are out there. The governor has been declaratory because he has, as I said, the January proposal and then the May revise, and so this is still just a proposal, and until we get to the end of that process, nobody really knows what this is going to look like, and we can speculate one way or the other, but we really just don't know the answer to that. Even today, I was on the phone along with Mike Fine with some of the governor's staff talking specifically about the budget, talking specifically about adult school in different pieces. One of their comments was that probably in the next 15 days, so at the end of about a 2-week period, hopefully we have clarity about a lot of these issues as we hone in on the actual budget itself. And when we have that actual budget, then we'll know exactly where we are with adult school. The other thing that I would say is I've had 3 separate conversations by my recollection today specifically about adult school, specifically about the proposal nature, but how can we work through this? How can we do our part locally relative to the issue, realizing again there's the state dilemma of is it one way or another way, or what's the various pieces and parts. The other complexity, and I won't go into the complexity other than to say adult school funding is connected to all kinds of things that people don't recognize, like what we call our K-12 funding that supports teachers in classrooms and textbooks. And that may seem illogical, but again, in the particular proposal, in the specific language, it is connected. And so how we unravel all that becomes an interesting and difficult question, but we're working on it, and we're not avoiding it by any means. And we're working both here and in Sacramento trying to get through it.
Okay, thank
So as
you.
we find out with most government policies, there probably will be a compromise somewhere in the middle.
Right. In fact, I think historically, if you look at it, we always talked about the Big Five. The Big Five was the governor, the majority leaders, meaning the Democrat or Republican, depending upon which party, from both the Assembly and the Senate, and then the minority party from the both. That was the Big Five. Well, more recently, because of where the Republican Party is, they've kind of left themselves out of that equation, so now we call it the big three. So in this case, it would be the governor, the president pro tem of the Senate, Darrell Steinberg, and then the Assembly Speaker, Jose Perez. And between those three, they will probably the first part of June go into a room and negotiate the outcome, part of which has to do with education, part of which has to do with every facet of the budget statewide, which obviously goes way beyond just education.
Yeah, more to come on that one.
Yes, but I think we're narrowing the timeline. We're down to kind of a 2-week period where we're going to begin to really get probably solid answers as we get into that second or third week going forward.
Okay, so a question, actually it's 2 questions, and I actually saw one of these come in and I told them we got to ask him this one, just exactly how it came in from the website. This is for Mayor Bailey. So it's actually 2 questions, and if it's okay, I'll ask them both at the same time.
Sure,
Is that,
sure.
That's good.
He's good with multiple
know.
questions.
I'll try.
I'm going to struggle.
I'll try.
Will the city cut police if Measure A does not pass? And the second is that, and this is the one I enjoyed when I saw it come in. There's a lot of talk about Measure A. Is this a tax or what? And that's exactly how it's worded, so that was really cool.
Well, it is a general fund transfer, and that means it's money going from one pot to the other. And is it a tax? Specifically defined. It's a fund transfer. Some people call it a tax. Some people call it, a fee. Whatever you call it, it's funds moving from one pot to in the city to another. And so, going back, though, we need to explain what Measure A is, and that's a ballot measure on the June 4th election that specifically focuses on revenue from the water utility and that has come in and that is sitting in this pot, and we can either spend it just on the water utility, or as voters have done and we have done, the city has done for the last 100 years, we've transferred that money kind of like a dividend, right? Instead of going to an individual or a household, it goes to the entire city to be provided in the form of police and fire services and code enforcement and museums and libraries and everything that the general fund operates, which is the majority of those programs that are near and dear to people's hearts, including parks and recreation, and that relates to the school district. We have crossing guards and school resource officers, police officers in the schools. So in that regard, will it affect the police services? It could, especially those in the high schools and that service not just the high school but the middle schools around them. And that is what our city manager has told us. The city council, in preparation for a potential loss of $6 million plus to the general fund, needs to find out how is that going to impact us. And so we asked the city manager that question, and he gave us his best recommendations, which included some percentage cut to the budget of public safety, both police and fire, because they are the largest portion of the general fund. It's close to 60-something%. So pretty difficult to get around cutting something from public safety with that large of a budget and $6 million at risk. So Measure A, is it important? Yes, it's very important to the city and the services it provides, including 311. Everybody, I'm sure, out there that is listening and watching tonight has called 311 and asked the city to respond to graffiti or streetlights that are out or potholes or shopping carts, or called for services like police, non-emergency, or otherwise. So it will have an impact on schools, on police response, and on general responsiveness of the city.
So it doesn't necessarily cost me more money. It's just moving the money from one fund to another fund. Is that pretty much what's going on? Going back to the tax idea? Yes,
and we've already validated this. Voters have validated this 3 times since the beginning of our charter utility, water utility 100 years ago. The voters of Riverside 3 times have voted to put this transfer or tax or fee in place, again, to support city services and not just to get money back, to them specifically or to their household.
So what brought this up?
So there was a settlement that we entered into with some individuals that sued the city because of Prop 218, which is a state proposition that affected us. If you know the Supremacy Clause, federal laws trump state, which trump local. Well, our local laws, again, like I said, have been in place and have been voted upon, I think, most recently in the 70s. Well, Prop 218 came in, and I think it was 1995, 1996, and that was the statewide, proposition. Voters voted on that, and that said you can't charge any more for water than what it takes to deliver it to your house. Well, again, we're taking in more revenue and have been taking in more revenue both on electric utility and a water utility, and putting that transfer back into the general fund to support the entire city operations versus just replacing pipes sooner or whatever else we needed to do in the water utility side.
Okay. This is for Dr. Miller. I recently saw the video of your presentation at Good Morning Riverside, and I am interested in what parents and others do to help our kids read by 3rd grade, and how young should we start? Very good question.
Well, you should have been there in person. It's better than the video.
We started reading to our kids when in utero, before they were born.
Right. And
Right? Isn't that when you start?
Well, that's when many families begin. But you can't start too early, I think, is the issue there. What can parents do? There's a variety of things they can do, but really it goes back to reading. And so if your child's not able to read yet, then you can read to them. And again, I wouldn't worry about necessarily the level of the literature, because I think that part of this is vocabulary development. There's a variety of things that are going on as you do that. There's also questions sometimes about language of, I only read in Spanish or I speak in Spanish. Again, that's fine. Read literature to your children. Read the newspaper to your children if that's what you have. There's a variety of materials, but the point is to engage with them on a regular basis. One metric out there is, if we can do it, is 20 minutes a day. And at the same time, I would say that really also gets to kind of a fundamental transaction that sometimes does not happen, which is parents and children talking together, so that we're engaging together, and they may be asking questions of like, why does the sun always come up on a certain side of the house? Why does it go down on another side? That kind of engagement, that kind of inquisitiveness and conversation, even if you don't know the right answer, that dialogue is going to be highly supportive of your students reading and reading well. So read to your students consistently. The other thing is, I would say that to the degree that maybe you don't have kids any longer, but you have grandkids, or you have children in your church and you don't have children, use all of those ways of getting to kids and reading to kids, because it's the reading process. If we do that between ages of 0 or 1 through about 9 years old, it'll make a tremendous impact, and not just for that one student, but for this entire community, because we have, again, evidence that as we do that, it fundamentally changes what goes on in the community, the economic development in a community, and the long-term well-being inside the community.
And as you know, I like to talk about leadership by example, and so the mayor is going to go to libraries across the city, all 8 of them, and do a Read with the Mayor Day coming up in the fall, to try to encourage folks to come out and to the libraries and check out books, and then we'll again do our summer read program in partnership with the school districts, and do whatever we can to encourage parents to take their kids to the libraries over the summer.
And sometimes when we get engaged in these kinds of projects, people want to make them complicated. This is not complicated. If you just read with
20 minutes a
children,
day.
it works.
Yeah.
And if you do it 20 minutes a day, it works really, really well. So it's as simple as that. It's as complex as that.
Yeah, better than a TV program too, right?
Much.
So I was there at Good Morning Riverside, and I felt guilty, and I started reading to my granddaughter 20 minutes a night, just from seeing all the statistics that is on what happens to a child if they're not able to read by 3rd grade. So I think it's a wonderful program. This next question is for both of you. How about a mentor program linking City of Riverside with RUSD students? It would look great on a college education application.
I love that idea, and we've talked about mentors and internships. As I mentioned before, we have academies in just about every one of the high schools that has an internship program the junior year, where students will work on site, whether it's I know at Pauley I taught in the Hospitality Academy, and we took the students to Coco's and the Convention Center and to the Marriott and other restaurants around town. And so they had that real world experience. So it is occurring, not specifically one-to-one mentoring, but you have a boss both on site as well as back on the school campus to support you in your studies and in your field of expertise, whatever you choose, in terms of the academies that we have offered in the school district. I know there's a public safety academy and a teaching academy and otherwise.
Certainly, as a school district, I think we would be interested in doing that. And there's probably a limited number of students that can be involved in that way. The other thing is, I guess I would appeal for, is to the degree that our students are involved in internship and they're doing specific work. So maybe it's in the water department, maybe it's in the police department. I know they have cadet programs and so forth. But part of what we need to have come out of that is also a relational engagement. So if you're my boss and I'm the intern, you take interest in me and you actually kind of guide me, you mentor me, you coach me as we go along. And I think all of us need to be coaches. Actually, tonight before I came here, I was coaching somebody. And so we need to do that. I think also the model out of Big Brother, Big Sister is another example of the kind of relationship I'm talking about. So internship, if it's just work, doesn't get us to where we need to go. We need to make sure that we have that relational connection, and it probably frankly survives beyond the internship. That is, when the student goes back to their normal classes, they may not be doing that work per se any longer. That relationship continues to survive and go forward, which is much like we do in the business world anyway.
Yeah, and we've had job shadowing days. I know the Los Area Business Academy came down recently at City Hall, and we plugged them in one-to-one, and they got a chance to go on a ride-along with various public employees out in their daily work. And so I think that there's a chance to further those goals. America's Promise Alliance was Colin Powell's dream to provide 5 things to kids in our country, across the board. But number one thing that he said is the most important factor towards their future success is a caring adult. And so that's what a mentor is.
Correct.
The rest of them were dealing with effective education, a healthy start, safe places, and then opportunities to serve. And that was another question that was asked earlier. So if between the two of us we can take care of connecting kids to a caring adult and an opportunity to serve their city, their school, their church, wherever it is, I think we're going to go a long way to success in our city.
And also, hopefully, that's consistent with what their particular passion and asset is.
Right.
And so if I really want to grow up to be a police officer, then I probably ought to be connected to law enforcement. If I want to have some other aspect of things, then I ought to be connected to people engaged in similar kinds of work. So the student passion and asset is also important.
Definitely.
In that.
And that's where the mentor really can help them find those avenues to tap into their passion.
Okay, what we're going to do right now is we're going to take a very short break. We're going to run some public service announcements. There's going to be 3 of them, and I encourage you to watch them and listen to them because they're really important. They're also created by students. And then we'll be right back. So, run them.
See you in a little bit.
Would that be credit or debit?
Credit.
You are going to have to leave now. You went outside the lines. You're going to have to go to a store in your own neighborhood. Go!
Excuse me, sir. Step away from the pump. You're going to have to leave.
What? Why?
You stepped outside the boundaries. You can't get gas.
You wouldn't let someone tell you where to buy your gas or groceries, so why would you let someone tell you where your child has to go to school? The Riverside Unified School District is a district of choice, and we welcome your children to our district, no matter where you're coming from. One great choice is the Riverside Virtual School, with a flexible learning environment, blending online learning with access to one-on-one contact with high-quality teachers, science labs, and more. RVS offers excellent support for homeschool families, and because it is a public school education, it's free. It's okay to go outside of the lines. Make a choice to get the best education for your child in the Riverside Unified School District and the Riverside Virtual School. For more information, visit rvslink.org.
Local election coming. Didn't we just have one of these? I remember some guy was sworn in. Did I vote for him? Voting should be like the Olympics, once every 4 years. Can't they make a decision without us? I hate choosing. On the other hand, I guess it's my duty and all. Can I read somewhere that it's against the law in some countries not to vote? Could I go to jail for that? Maybe it's just a fine.
Hey, voting is the bedrock of a democracy, and it's not just national elections that'll affect you. You need to stop asking why you should vote and start asking how to vote.
Say what's on your mind. Vote in the upcoming Riverside election.
What a jerk.
I'm right here.
The videos you have just seen on this flash drive represent just a few of the more than 100 videos produced by the RUSD video production team. This video team works with middle and high school students to produce quality public service videos that promote positive school district and community programs while giving students invaluable hands-on experience that they can use for a possible future career. More than 500 students participate in the video production team. They learn all aspects of putting a video together, from coming up with an idea, to writing a script with a clear message in mind, to planning the shoot, to writing and filming, to sound engineering, to editing, and to enjoy watching the final product. Our students come from diverse backgrounds and include those who excel academically, as well as those who need just a little more support. For those students, the video production team has been a way to feel part of school like they never have before. They feel a sense of success and have become more engaged in their educations and consequently are excelling in school. Because district funds are limited, we are continually looking for funded opportunities to work with other agencies in mutual benefit programs. Remember, a picture may be worth 1,000 words, but a quality video is worth 1,000,000 hits, that is. If you would be interested in having the RUSD video team help you to promote your program, please contact John Schreck at JSCHRECK@rusd.k12.ca.us or by phone at 951-778-5640.
Are our mics on?
Well, everybody, welcome back. I want to describe a little bit, and we'll show you a picture in a second of what's going on here. But we're actually having students do most of the work here. And if we could switch to the tech shot right now, you can see that we've set up sort of a makeshift studio. We actually just hung a green screen in our print shop. And we put up cameras, and we have students behind the cameras, and we have students all over the place. They're actually learning TV production as this goes along. This is a project that we started at the beginning of the year, coming up with a possible idea of doing this. We weren't sure if this was going to work, and at the end I'm going to ask you to put down some comments or to log in and say some comments about what you think of how this went. The amount of resources that we've dedicated to this tonight has been almost nothing. A lot of us are here voluntarily. These two wonderful people next to me aren't being paid to be here. I'm not being paid. The only people we're actually paying is the translators, and they deserve to be paid for the amount of work that they're doing. So it's very limited. We want to expand this if it's something that you think is important or something that you'd like to see again. We'd like to expand it to a couple of different languages, maybe some sign languages, get some different guests up here, do different things to make this really useful for the community of Riverside. This is a joint effort. We have the press enterprise here. We have the city of Riverside here that are loaning equipment and personnel for this particular broadcast. That's why you can see it. Several different streams, either with the press enterprise on our watch, RUSD, or riversidelive.org. And it's also why you can see it on Charter Channel 3 and UVerse and AT&T. So again, this is a joint effort. If it's worth it, let us know. If it's not, go ahead and let us know that as well. All right, we'll get back into the questions. And
Are we texting votes in for yes or no on
we
that?
should.
We should.
And actually, that's one of the components that we actually are talking about, that there's poll everywhere, that we could actually have people. Now, these questions that I'm reading are actually coming in live. So they're coming in through our website, and they're transmitting them to my little laptop right in front of me. So we're seeing this truly interactive. We'd like to possibly set up maybe FaceTimes or teleconferencing, bring in the governor, whatever. We want to take this to the next
Love
level.
it.
So, I mean, it's something that we think might be useful. And again, we need to hear from everybody.
Well, to add to that, Assemblyman Medina just this last week created a video conference link with Lincoln High School. And he was in Sacramento, they were at the high school, but they had a dialogue back and forth in live video conference, which again, you have a sitting member of the assembly that's directly involved and directly talking to students about what their interests are.
Former
And-
educator.
My staff was involved in that. What was interesting, because I was there, is when they started out, they asked very simple questions and they were very stiff. But as it progressed and they saw the interaction and they could see facial expressions, not like a phone call, it relaxed. And
Very
suddenly
cool.
these students were really asking incredible, wonderful questions. And maybe we can get to that point.
Technology.
All right, so speaking of that, this next question came in and we weren't really sure if this was directed at one or the other, so I'm going to ask it to both of you. After a few years, are you going to run for Congress?
I don't have any plans on running for Congress. Do you, Dr. Miller?
Well, I'm in a fundraising effort, and actually, it's a run-a-thon, and if people pay me $1 a mile, I'm going to run. Is that what you meant?
Like a jogathon?
The question
I like
came
that.
in, we weren't sure if it was to you or...
If you mean, am I going to run to take Mark Takano's position as congressman? Absolutely not. My rule is I don't run for office.
And I love local, serving at the local level. That's what I've always focused on, and it gives you a chance to problem solve and see the fruits of your labor, you know, at the project-based level, and so in the program-based level versus being removed in Sacramento or Washington, D.C. and working more on policy than on projects and programs. And it's been a boyhood dream of mine to represent my hometown. So it doesn't get any better than being the mayor of your hometown.
Plus, this is a nicer place to live than either of those other two places.
Amen. Amen. Number one intelligent community in the world.
Absolutely. In the world.
That's right.
So,
Okay, this is for Mayor Bailey. What is the city doing to address the obesity concerns in the city? What are you doing to encourage residents to live healthier lives?
Great question, and I think Dr. Miller will want to weigh in on this too in terms of the school district's response to you know, a serious problem that we have out there with our youth and with I think people in general, because of our ability to drive through any fast food restaurant on our way home and pick up something to eat that is probably not as healthy as if you would go home and make it yourself. We have individuals, and I think it's in our county, that are 56% are overweight or obese. And so with Mayor Loveridge last couple of years, we started what's called the Fit, Fresh, and Fun Forum, which encourages people first to be fit and to work on exercising on a daily basis. He started a Walk with the Mayor program, and then we created a competition called Walk Riverside between the neighborhoods. Who do you think won? Which neighborhood do you think won? Since Mayor Loveridge walks Mount Rubidoux every day, and he skewed that towards the downtown neighborhood, and they won that competition. But we're going to try to do that on a regular basis, a yearly basis, Walk Riverside, connect to the neighborhoods. I'm continuing the Walk with the Mayor program, as well as encouraging people to get on their bikes and bike to work. And so we've started the Bike with the Mayor program. It is once a month, and truly is reaching out towards, you know, a population that would inspire others to come with them. So moms out there that have a dusty old bike or just need to pump their tire up or get a tube replaced and get back on their bikes, which would encourage their kids to get on a bike. And maybe if they were if they went to the store and shopped on their bike with a little trailer on the back, those cultural shifts would then inspire the next generation to change their culture and bike to school or bike to work. So that's the intent behind some of those programs is truly a lifestyle change from sedentary to active, and looking at nutrition as a lifesaver. And I think Dr. Miller can talk more about that and what they've gone through in the school district.
yeah, I think that I know we have an award-winning food service program. And there's probably been lots of conversation in the media about maybe what schools have not done. And I can guarantee you that we are way out in front. Our staff, in fact, has been called back to be involved with Washington, D.C., the White House, and so forth, Jamie Oliver has been somewhat disparaging of other school districts. Actually, our food service director, Rodney Taylor, is on Jamie Oliver's website as one of the good guys, meaning one of the people that's doing it correctly. We also have salad bars essentially in all of our schools. We had a program this last year called Salad First. In other words, again, rather than going to entrees first, if we start with salad as a life habit, that probably is improved nutrition overall. We've also made changes in terms of drinks in vending machines that are less sugar and those kinds of things. So shifts
more
that
soda.
way.
Yep.
And then the other thing I'd say is we have some very creative, dedicated staff members that have done things like create what's called the 100-mile club, where students sign up for that. In the 100-mile club, they go out and literally walk together 100 miles, oftentimes around the campus. But again, the collection of both nutrition on the one side, but then physical activity on the other.
And they can get credit for walking with the mayor, right? Those 100-mile clubbers?
Yes, yes.
All right.
And
all
they
right.
also walk Mount Rubidoux on the weekends sometimes.
Yeah.
But again,
With their family.
and they do it together. And so it's kind of building that team around good fitness and good nutrition.
And we've got great partners in our hospitals in town that have their own foundations, whether it's Kaiser or Riverside Community or the Riverside Medical Clinic. And we started a campaign called Start Right. Riverside is getting healthy together. And we're going to have a campaign kickoff at the beginning of the year to plug people into the resources, whether it's fitness clubs or whether it's 100-mile clubs or Walk with the Mayor programs, so that they can truly get in a team format and be held accountable by others, because that's always the best way to keep the momentum going when it comes to fitness. And so look for Start Right. Riverside's getting healthy together, and you can find that on the Fit Fresh Fun Riverside.com website. Fit Fresh Fun Riverside. Can you say that 3 times fast?
No, but I want to see if you can.
After the show.
Now, Fit Fresh Fun, they actually were one of the sponsors of our summer activity fair, so they gave us some money to help us put on that thing that we just did at the plaza. So we're getting in a lot of questions about adult ed, and they're all about the same as the question that was asked earlier on in this broadcast. So if you could, later on today or tomorrow, come back to riversidelive.org, and there will be links for you to be able to watch the video over, watch this broadcast over, so you can see Dr. Miller's answers to that particular question. So the next question is for primarily Mayor Bailey, but I think also Dr. Miller. And also, as a side note, Channel 7 has just run a story tonight on this as well. There seems to be so many traffic issues around the school. What is being done to keep kids safe? The drivers around here are crazy. Now, Channel 7 just did a story about North and the jaywalking at North and the traffic hazard along the backside of North. So, Mayor Bailey?
Well, first and foremost, we would hope that students felt comfortable and safe enough to be able to walk to school and or ride their bike to school or find a way to carpool. I taught for the last 11 years, and I can tell you that it is somewhat dangerous getting to school in the morning, especially if you wait to the last 10 minutes. And unfortunately, that's what happens a lot of time is parents or students are preparing last minute, and they're not getting there early when there is openings against the curb at the school to let their students out. I've done this myself with both of my daughters, who I drive to school regularly. And the earlier you get there, the much easier and safer it is for you to drop your student off or to pick them up. And the further you get away from school, the easier it is to pick them up. And so I would encourage parents to find safe places that they feel comfortable and let their student know, I'm going to be at this place after school, and let them walk, a couple hundred yards or maybe a half a mile to get to the car, which would again focus on their fitness and letting them, get a little bit of a head start when it comes to starting right. And so that's really what we need to do long term, is to lead by example and to try to encourage our students to find alternative ways to get to school, whether it is a bus or a carpool or a bike, and to explore walking, and to encourage our kids to get up a little bit earlier. I think that's always the case when my students, if they were late, I'd ask them, why are you late? And I slept through my alarm, right? And so it's up to us as adults to drill that into our students, because that's going to help them when they get out in the workforce or wherever they go after, to the next level of education. Being on time is important, and being not just on time, but being early is important. So I would encourage people and parents to have that conversation with their students.
Very good.
Dr. Miller, what do you think about that?
Well, I agree, but the other thing that you didn't point out is in school zones is actually by law 25 miles an hour. And so that's important that we respect that as citizens in the community. But then beyond that, I think we should expect that law enforcement will take enforcement procedures, and so there can be a sizable citation if I'm exceeding 25 miles an hour. So again, I think that we need to be cognizant of that, and we need to understand that Riverside Police Department probably going to be paying attention to that as time goes on, and as they pay attention, if we don't pay attention, we may get a ticket out of it.
He's giving a city response, I'm giving the school response. And I'll talk to you about a partnership that we've had with a majority of our schools. We have Safe Routes to School partnership that also works with the county towards encouraging, again, walking buses or biking to school and other modes of transportation. But our traffic engineer has been to many of the schools and have designed systems both internally in the parking lot, specifically Pauley, as well as outside drop-off zones. Up at King, he's done that. A number of elementary schools have asked him to come out. Pachapa in my ward. This was an issue as a councilman out there, and I know that a number of other councilmen get plenty of calls on this one issue. And so the city does partner and send our traffic enforcers out there, ticketing individuals who are letting their students get out in the middle of the street, or or parking in handicapped or red zones. And so unfortunately, those things happen. But we have partnered to try to be proactive about setting up people for success and making sure that they know what the laws are and the rules are around the schools.
This one's for Dr. Miller. Can you elaborate on completion counts?
Yes. Next question.
Okay, go. Give it a shot.
Completion Counts is a project that we've been working on for about 3 years. We have a collection of partners: Alvord, Riverside Unified School District, Riverside Community College, RCC, the city, the chamber. It's a variety of folks working together, but the basic purpose of it is to improve both graduation rates from high school, first and foremost, but then secondarily to improve what we call completion of higher education. Higher education could be an associate's degree, as an example, with RCC or CBU, or those kinds of things. One of the most exciting things I think about completion counts is RCC and their president, Dr. Azari, have really stepped up with the RCC guarantee, because many of our students in this community have struggled. They've been admitted to the school and so forth. They'd go to sign up and they'd get like one photography class, and what they didn't get was they didn't get that English class, they didn't get the social studies class, they didn't get the math class, so their ability to graduate in 2 years was nearly impossible. But RCC actually guarantees now, in fact it's on their website, that if you meet certain criteria, and it's fairly simple criteria, if you're a decent student you can meet it, they will guarantee that you will complete within 2 years, and you'll be given what's called priority scheduling. And so the first year, I think we had 384 students. They all got those English classes, those math classes, those social studies classes. At the end of the first semester, they sat down with them to monitor how were they doing in those classes. And to the degree there was difficulty, there was conversation about that. So again, I think there's really a step up. And again, there's been a lot of frustration, I think, around this issue of not getting the classes, but now there's a clear pathway. And again, if you'll check the RCC website, you can see RCC guarantees, or Google it, and it's all there. But it is just fantastic, I think, in terms of the opportunity we have in this community. But the opportunity is only good if people actually take advantage of it. That is, if students take the EAP, that's a particular test, if they sign up and do the right kinds of things so that they're ready to go. But I think it's a great improvement over where we've been.
And it's a connection back to the Riverside and Alvord school districts, the students in our city, to encourage them to go to college and complete it. And we'll honor that by supporting them with that 2-year contract. And I think what the cohort or the group of students initially was about 300
It's 384, 386, something
the
like
first
that.
year, and then this next year it's up to close to 500 that they've put into this program, right?
Yes, I would anticipate that. And again, one of the criteria is you have to be a graduate from high school in either Riverside or Albert. So this is very specific, and if you graduate from some other school, the guarantee is not there. So again, this is perfectly aligned to our community. And again, my commendation to Dr. Azari and to RCC on the work that they've done, because I think it's tremendous for our students and for our community.
And we also have some goals to reach by the year 2020 in terms of completion of high school, completion of college, and then hopefully through the Education Roundtable, we've had those discussions about the higher education, the four-year institutions we have in the city, and plugging them in with the 2+2 program. So we're going forward with some of those conversations in the long run to support those students if they choose to go to a four-year degree.
Okay, this next one also is for Dr. Miller. Since RUSD is a district of choice, why are some schools closed to transfer? And what is being done to provide more space for students who would like to attend those schools that are closed to transfers? There's also a secondary question, so I like asking you more than one at one time.
Well, good.
So the second part is my one sibling already goes to that school. What is the policy about having a second sibling that just comes along and goes to that school? Is that mandated? Is that not allowed? If it's closed for transfers, how does that work?
So again, I think we need to take these in parts, because otherwise
Yes.
I'm going to lose track. First of all, district of choice is not necessarily about choices within the district, but it's really allowing people from outside the district to come to Riverside Unified School District. Now within that, they usually come here with a particular purpose. That is, they want to go to a particular school. It might be an elementary school, a middle school, or a high school. And obviously, as more and more try to get into a particular school, at some point we've reached capacity. So, you know, if you think about your house, at some point your house will only hold so many people. And if somebody says, well, I want to join your family, there's a problem, because there's a limit to how many people you can actually get inside of that particular house. So that's why at some point we have to close it to transfer. We keep looking at how do we generate more space, and sometimes there's some ways we can do that. Other times, not so much. The other thing is, at the same time, we continue to try to look at giving parents more choices, because we believe that if you've chosen to be someplace, and that may be your neighborhood school, but if you've chosen to be someplace, that's better than being assigned to someplace. And in fact, I think one of your commercials at the halfway part talked about that. So we want to give people choices. So as an example, with the dual language immersion, we actually started at one school. It was at Washington, but because there was pressure, we couldn't take all the transfers that wanted to go. We actually opened another one over at Castleview as an example. So we continue to kind of grow those out, and we're actually intending now to open a third one, which would be at Mountain View, that would offer that option. So we keep looking for ways to grow those out, to give people choices, but we have to go slow. And I guess the last thing I would say, if you look at where we are with that today and the choices that are offered versus where we were 3 years ago, I think we've come a long, long ways. But hopefully in the next 3 years, we will even be more sophisticated and further down the line, because I think that's our general philosophy of we want to provide parents with lots of different choices and options.
And as a parent with two daughters in the school district, I want to say thank you for providing those options, especially expanding dual language immersion. My daughter Julie is in first grade now at Castleview, and so she made it through the lottery system. My other daughter is on the waiting list at the STEM Academy, and so we're hoping that she gets in this next year through that wait list.
Yeah, and the STEM Academy is a good example. All the fifth graders kind of go through the front door, if you will, and there's tends to be wait list because there's more pressure than we actually have space, and we've maxed the school out actually with the capacity that's there right now. But the best way to be in the STEM Academy is start in the fifth grade. If you enter in the seventh grade, there's already seventh graders there, so it's tougher to get in.
The second part of that question, if you have a sibling already attended that transferred in, what's the policy or the rules or the regulations about getting that second or third sibling in?
Well, if there's space, bringing siblings along is not a problem, and we would welcome that. And again, that's consistent with the whole transfer issue. If the school is impacted, that is, we've reached that close point, then we're not going to go forward. And the other thing is, if there's a waiting list, we don't think it's fair to prioritize one student in front of another student. So we try not to do that. And one of the areas we've had this discussion is with the STEM Academy. The other thing I would say about that is not all siblings have the same assets. My two sons, one looked a particular way in terms of their assets, the other kind of looked another way in terms of their assets. To say that they all need to go to the same school probably doesn't make a lot of sense. And so again, we need to be open to that. We're trying to serve the best we can. We're trying to provide more and more capacity, but it's probably unfair that my child moves forward because of a sibling, your child can't enroll, and you weren't feeling like you were given a fair opportunity. I got 2 chances to your 1 chance. So that's the dilemma we're trying to work around.
Okay, we're almost at the end. So Barbara Walters always asked a question, you know, if you were a tree, what kind of tree would you be? Well, I'm not going to ask that. I'm going to be a little more towards my roots, which happens to be a gearhead. In 30 seconds or less, if you were a car, what kind of car would you be, Mayor Bailey?
A Jeep, you know,
Jeep.
a rugged individualist that is not afraid to trailblaze at times, but is steady and serves the function that it's intended to do. Drive you to work or school.
Dr. Miller?
I hate these questions.
You got time to think.
I still hate these questions. So I could be a 4-wheel drive pickup like I have outside.
Sure.
But the thing that comes to my mind most immediately is a Ferrari. You know, let's get there quickly. Let's get it done. Let's move forward.
Is that a fancy Italian suit too?
How did you know? No. Boy, like I said, I hate those questions. And you know, there's another part of me that wants to just be kind of a Chevy, if you will, and again, get the job done and be utilitarian about how we approach it.
We can have multiple vehicles, can't we?
Where'd you get these questions?
They're right here on the screen.
Yeah,
so
I'm sure.
We got to ask him a question. Next
Got to
time.
talk to them in the room back there. We'll wrap it up now, but first of all, I'd like to thank Mayor Bailey and Dr. Miller for taking time out of their evening to answer questions. And we had a significant amount of questions that we could not get to, a lot. So that means that's good news that people want to know information. They're tuning in and they're asking the questions. It's bad that we didn't have 5 hours here, right? Because you all could go 5 hours after a full workday, right?
Depends on your question.
Of course.
Yeah,
We'll be back.
exactly. So what we'd like to know is we'd like to know how you think this went. How would you want to do this again? Do you think it's worthwhile to put some resources towards? And the way to do that is to log on to 2 different ways. riversidelive.org, and you come up to a website, and then where you were putting in questions, instead of putting in questions, you'll put in your comments, and we're changing that now. At least I hope they are in the room. They're working diligently too. The second way is to go to rusdlink.org/Riverside Live, and that will take you to the exact same page. Let us know what you think, whether you thought it was good, bad, or whether you're indifferent, and we hope to see you again.
Could they
Do this
also
again.
make suggestions for improvements?
Absolutely. We want to know what we could do better, get rid of me. I'd be open to
like
that.
To see on,
Other guests you'd like to see? Would you like to see, you know, President Obama or who? You know, I mean, we'll do our best to get who we can. But this is something that we want to know what you think before we proceed. So I'd like to thank everybody for watching that has watched. So now you can go back to watching whatever TV show is on.
Or reading 20 minutes.
Or reading 20 minutes to your grandkids or your kids. Absolutely. That's very good.
Another thing they can do is they can take them down to Barnes & Noble and go through the stacks or the libraries. That's another way.
Or go to the public library.
Right, that's what I said.
There we go.
So yeah, absolutely. Thank you, everybody. It's riversidelive.org to log on and give us your comment. Thank you. We hope to see you again.
Thank you.